In this video, we're going to make a sample line group. This is the next step in generating earthwork volumes and calculations. So from the Home tab, you'll want to come in and click on the sample lines box. It's going to ask you to select an alignment, or you can hit the enter key and it'll let you pick which alignment you want. So this is First Street, and actually I think I labeled it wrong on the surface. I think I called it Second, but this is First Street, the main street in. So we're going to click OK. That's what we want. And it's going to ask you which data sources do you want to look at when you're making your sample line group. So for this in particular, what we're going to be doing is, if you think about in the transportation class we have in the earthwork section, we talked about looking at a cross section at certain places in the road and being able to calculate the area of either cut or fill required at that one particular cross section. This is basically going to create those cross sections. So we want to look at the existing grade. We don't need scaled, and we don't need the corridor 3, and we don't need corridor 1. We want the datum. We only want the bottom of our road, and again, I need to rename that. It should be First Street, but we want the existing grade, and we want the bottom of our road. That's where we're going to cut and fill to. So we will say OK for this, and if you want to give it a name, you can call it First Street. You can say OK. And it asks you to specify a station along the alignment. So we want to actually come in here to our toolbar. We want multiple stations. We want to lay everything out at once. So we're going to do the sample line creation methods, and we want to do a whole range of stations. We don't want to just pick one place where we're getting a cross section. We want a whole range. So that's going to open this up and say that in general, we're looking at the alignment. We're going to go from the start. That's true. But we're not going to go all the way to the end. We actually want to stop it right here where that intersection takes over. So we're going to say we're not going to the end. That's false. The end station is going to be this point where the intersection starts in. So you can zoom in and click on that station. And that puts that in there. It's going to ask you from the center line, how far out from the center line do you want to go on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side. You can make this number however far out you want to take it. And it's going to ask you how often do you want to put a cross-section in. So if your stations are each 100 feet per station, this would be 50 feet at every half station. And sometimes you may want to make it a little bit closer together around curves or around spirals. It might be helpful to take a few more sections there. So maybe you might want to change it to 25 or 20 or something like that. And we'll just leave it at 50 for now for this example. When you click OK, you should notice all of these blue lines. So it's taking a cross section every time one of these blue lines crosses. So we can hit escape, and you'll see that it shows up, and it shows that we're going from station 0 every half station all the way to where we told it to stop. So we created a sample line group, and then we created our sample lines. And this is all we're going to do for now. Well, if you wanted to set up these at half stations, but maybe on this street you want to set them up at every 20 feet, you could make a whole separate sample line group by going in the exact same steps we just did, and then you could make a whole separate group for this road in particular that were sampled at every 20 feet, maybe, and not every 50. I'm also going to go in and just rename these while we're in here. To do that, we can go into the surface properties, and I'm just going to go change that back to first, since I put the wrong name on. And also go into this one, surface property, make that first. There we go. And everything should be updated along with it. Anytime you see a little yellow triangle with an exclamation point in it, you can just right click and tell it to rebuild, and that'll go away. When you see the little triangle like this, that means that it's tied to something. So for example, these may be like tied to a surface or tied to a corridor or something like that. So just means it's linked to something somewhere else. That should be it though, and everything that we need for our sample line group.